Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Intuitive Conversations with Tamara and Chantel. I'm Chantel.
I'm Tamara.
Today, we're talking about um, sessions, guided inner self discovery. There's a lot of names for it, but it really is self discovery with vague suggestions from the guide or therapist. And Tamara and I just finished one of those, and she'd like to tell everybody what it's like, what she saw.
Yeah, so before we started recording, Chantel and I were talking as we often do, and one thing leads to another. And just in this time of COVID, we know how much uncertainty people are dealing with. I've been thrown into a position in my role at work that I wasn't expecting at all at the start of the year. And so the adjustment of moving into remote teaching, um, and uncertainty about what that means for next year, what my position or my job might look like. And in some ways, so many of us having so little control. And we kind of went into, and then I sort of talked about something that's been with me since I was very young, which is kind of that inner feeling of being the hated child of the universe. And this is a term that came up in reading recently. And when I read that, it resonated so strongly that somehow there's this feeling of the good things are for everyone else. Everyone else benefits from inner guidance, but not me. Um, People have success and confidence and all kinds of things work out for them, but not for me. So there's kind of that self-sabotaging inner child that feels like the hated child of the universe, that the support isn't there. Um, in a sense, the safety line won't be there, and that was something that came up in the imagery. So I don't know, Chantel, if you want to talk about how you started
Sure.
with guiding me.
Well, all that really needs to happen is for the person to be relaxed and to kind of go inside into imagination. Just kind of like when you're going to sleep at night, you relax your body and you imagine things. And so I just had her relax her eyelids and just have that feeling of relaxation spread to the rest of her body. It was really just like a less than 1 minute sort of induction.
Hmm.
And then we went right into just imagine a safe place. And yeah, I wrote down what she saw: garden, trees, stone sculptures, the Mediterranean.
Yeah, my safe place, and I don't know why I went there, but it was a garden on the island of Capri near the Amalfi Coast, or in the Amalfi Coast of Italy. And there's this beautiful garden. It's not very large, but lovely garden. But the most spectacular thing is that looking out from the garden, you can see down onto the Mediterranean. You're up um, in the hills of Capri in this beautiful garden, and you can see the beautiful waters of the Mediterranean and the coast beyond, and it's just absolutely magnificent and so wonderful, so relaxing.
My favorite part of the journeys that I guide people on is that I just give vague suggestion. And I said a safe outdoor space. So it's very vague. So she was able, her subconscious was able to come up with this incredible view, way better than if I had suggested something specific.
Yeah, somehow your psyche knows exactly where to take you.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had you find something that was kind of out of place, something maybe even ugly a bit, that symbolized this issue that you wanted to, your intention of looking deeper into this issue of the hated child.
Right. So what I saw was garbage. Somebody had, those big cups that you get at Booster Juice or McDonald's or whatever, with the paper cups with the waxy coating on them, and you drink with a straw. So someone had just left one in the garden lying on the ground.
Hmm. And then I asked her, I don't remember the exact questions, but basically like kind of like what needs to happen, or if you had all the magic in the world, like what would you like to do?
Yeah. My feeling about that cup was, because you had a prompt there about something, what was the connection, or what was my feeling about that piece of garbage? And my feeling was that it was not usable. because it couldn't just be recycled. That waxy coating made it unrecyclable, and the straw and everything, that it was just going to end up in a landfill, and then, or maybe even in the ocean somewhere, and it would just contribute to the problem of pollution. And it all just, even talking about that, it just felt heavy and hopeless. And then you asked me about possibilities and if I had the magic. And it was almost like that was a word, that word magic just
Well,
flipped
I
on a
know
switch.
you. I know your love of those movies.
Yeah, magic is a word that, I don't know, it's one of those words that just lights me up. And when I heard that and realized I had the magic, with my magic, I was able to strip the coating off of that, uh, the cup, and turn it into a little candle that could go on someone's birthday cake. And then the cup itself could be recycled. And I just saw it being made into pulp that was going to make a new paper, that heavy paper that gets used for invitations, like wedding invitations or really special letters, or whatever. So it was completely transformed.
And we've talked about that before with the feeding your demons process, how to transform something. So I
Hmm.
think it was kind of kind of already there. So many elements of your journey were already there because of things that we've already discussed. Um,
Right.
yeah, and then we talked about like you said something about a gatekeeper, a choice. I wrote down.
Oh,
You said
yeah. Okay.
something.
That
Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember about the gatekeeper. You had asked me a question
Like kind of what was on the
about the
boundary.
magic.
I think I
Yeah.
said what was on the boundary of.
Oh, right. Yeah. That I felt like there was just a huge boundary of doubt and self-sabotage in a way that kept me from accessing the magic
Mm,
on a regular basis. And the gatekeeper was kind of this figure that stood at the boundary, because you asked what is at the boundary there, and the gatekeeper was making me, um, take the choice, really, of, do I want to stay with the mindset, kind of the traditions, the way of thinking that I was raised with, that kind of keeps me acceptable and wins approval of people around me, and the culture and society that I move in? Or do I want to push through that boundary and access the magic, and then maybe give up some of that approval? Or,
mhm.
yeah,
And
it,
I
it
don't
felt like a
remember what I
leap.
asked. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The leap.
And yeah, it
The
felt like
leap.
a leap that I would have to take, almost like leaping for a trapeze bar. And what if it moves just out of my reach and there's no safety net? That was the question that came up for me.
Beautiful metaphor, really. And I didn't come up with that. You came up with all the imagery, and it was incredible.
And
Yeah.
then
And
you asked about the safety line and what would need to happen.
mhm,
Um, and I said it wasn't even so much that I would need to see a safety net down below, but just to feel and know that there was a safety line, some kind of a tether that would just connect me, that I wouldn't be, completely let loose on my own to fall.
mhm. And before we went into our journey, we were talking about Amanda Flaker and about this everyone and everything is connected and we're not separated. And we also talked about your necklace. So I
Yes.
think that came into play
So
at this part of the journey.
this is my, Metatron's cube pendant, which is a sacred geometry shape, actually the most powerful shape in sacred geometry, because it contains within it every three-dimensional shape in the universe.
Including one of the
And
ones I have as a tattoo.
yeah, and I just got this in the mail yesterday. And so, in my
Very
imagery,
synchronistic.
this kind of became the talisman with the bars of energy that kind of, flowed outward from the pendant and wrapped around me, not in a way to confine, but to make me feel secure and, surrounded,
Supported.
I guess, with
Hmm.
those energy lines of the tether that I was looking for.
Hmm. And we allowed some time to integrate and really feel that energy.
And I could really feel that coming into my body, kind of through my solar plexus and expanding me from the inside. It was just a really good, empowering feeling.
Hmm. And then I don't remember what I asked next, but it was, oh yeah, I think it was like, was anything else needed to resolve this issue of the hated child? And then you talked about Greek mythology.
Oh, right. Yeah, I talked about the fact that there are so many stories in Greek mythology where a child is born and one of the parents or both of the parents are gods or goddesses, and they abandon the child, and the child is left to be raised by shepherds or some other people who keep the child's parentage hidden from them, so they don't know the truth of who they are. And I think that's such a metaphor for all of us, and that this divine aspect of us is something we're not taught to embrace, we don't know about. And then at some point, and you brought up the Wonder Woman connection, that at some point you find out this piece of your identity that you never knew was there. And it opens up this impulse to step into that, you know, heroic
So what
part
did
of
you
you.
visualize as you stepped into that energy?
Was I visualizing the Wonder Woman thing or
You were visualizing a circle and the elements,
oh,
sort of
yes, you
stepping
mentioned the
into
four elements.
embodying that archetype of Wonder Woman.
Right. So, stepping into a circle of power with the four elements surrounding me, air, fire, water, and earth. And they all just kind of combined and became this energy vortex that wrapped around me. And I could feel the power of that in my belly. It was a really
Beautiful.
good, strong, powerful feeling.
I always like bringing in the elements, either for releasing emotion or for really anything. So that was my suggestion, one of my only suggestions that was specific, but I didn't say how to use them. Your
Right.
subconscious came up with all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so do you remember anything else to close off with it? Because I think I just gave you some time to integrate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's where it ended was with that energy vortex just wrapping and swirling around me.
Hmm. So now thinking about that issue of the hated child, how do you feel after stepping into that empowerment and feeling that security?
I feel like I have some new resources
Inner
to
resources,
bring
yes.
to bring to that when, when it comes up again. I have some imagery to work with and bring into my daily meditation practice.
Mm. And you have that anchor of the necklace to touch to.
Yeah. I always think it's really great to have something physical. And in
Mhm.
the past, when I've worked with clients in guided imagery and music, they usually draw something at the end of a session, a mandala that they can put up on the wall. But I'll sometimes say, like, if a color came up that was important, that they can find a scarf or buy a piece of clothing or something, or find a symbol that you can put in your environment. And I love pendants. I ordered this because it's something I can wear and carry with me into my day every day. So,
Mhm. Yeah. So that's it. That's what my journeys are like.
yeah,
That's
and it was lovely. And I was thinking, oh, we should have recorded this because we kind of just sort of spontaneously went into that session out of just checking in with each other and having our
yeah, we
conversation.
were just having our normal conversation, and that's what
Yeah.
sessions with me are like. Tamara
So,
texted
but
me this morning. She's like, "Let's talk about what you do." I'm like, "Okay, sure."
so maybe for next time we'll do an in real time imagery guided session like that, an
Mhm.
inner journey.
And Tamara's
And
done these for me too with music,
yeah,
like
well,
big
oh no, we
suggestions.
didn't. I was thinking we had done one together, but that was feeding your demons.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for the podcast, but like in
Yes.
my
Yeah.
office when you came
Yeah.
to my office, that was
Yeah.
amazing.
The
So,
power, yeah, it's just the power of imagination is so unlimited.
mhm. And it's so
And
real. People think it's pretend, but it's the most real thing there is.
I was just listening to oh, what's her name? Lynn McTaggart. She's an investigative journalist and she wrote books like The Field and The Power of Intention. And her whole work has become about what happens when people hold an intention, and especially together.
Mm,
And some of the stories that she's told about um, people that have found healing, or lowering crime in a certain neighborhood by having an intention. And
wow.
she conducts these experiments that you can take part in. And so it's a
Mm,
documented thing. It's real, the power of intention and how that can, the magic. We talked
mhm.
about magic. So intention is a way of releasing the magic.
Well, with those two words, it reminds me of the studies that I've done about like witches or magic. And I'm someone who likes simplicity. So I don't want all of the, mini rituals and fancy things. I think they're great for other people, but I just don't have time for that. But really, it all boils down to intention.
Hmm.
It all boils, like, the rituals themselves are to keep us focused, like the candles or whatever. It's to keep
Yeah.
us focused on our intention,
I feel
our
like
on our imagination.
I feel like we need to do an episode entirely on the power of intention,
Yeah,
because I
sounds
feel
great.
like with COVID now and all the changes that are going to be coming about, the power of moving forward with intention and knowing what our intention is can
Mm,
save us from so much reactive living, which is how we've been. If we look at politics, and everything is about reacting to what's coming from the other side or the opposite view, or reacting to life circumstances, reacting to COVID. And what if we started to shift that around and just say, I'm living from a place of intention?
mm. I've
And
been like, you can always choose what you sample online, right? You can choose what you listen to, you can
yeah,
choose what you give your energy to, what
yeah,
posts you comment on, etc.
yeah.
Amanda
But I
Flaker
think,
has been what I've been listening to, and she's been
yeah,
talking all about that, what you just said.
I think that's so important now, and what you just said, because your intention is will shape what you spend your time online doing and what you choose to subject yourself to. And so I feel like that's really important. I mean, just for the fact alone of monitoring what you put into your mind and what kind of energy you allow into your life.
And what would happen if we all did that? If we all used our energy, our intention, our imagination to create the world we wanted instead of to react to the world we didn't want? Because where attention goes, energy flows.
Right?
If we want to shift, we have to be
Absolutely.
the
Okay.
shift.
So that's our
So
next
that's for
podcast.
next time. Gotcha. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we close this one off for today?
I just want to say how empowering a session like that with Chantel is, not just because the imagery is so lovely and empowering, but just the being in the presence of somebody who creates that sacred space where you can be heard and seen for who you are. That alone is so powerful.
Hmm. That coming from someone who said she could not be hypnotized and wasn't a visual person. So there you go.
Yeah, she
Anybody
takes me
can
out of
do
my
it.
mind.
There's different ways to access, like, even doesn't matter if you're auditory, you kinesthetic, visual, you can still imagine in your own way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All righty. Until next
Thank you,
time.
Chantel.
What is our thing we say at the end?
Follow your heart song
Yes, keep
and book
following
a
your heart
session with
song.
Chantel.
Yes. Okay. Bye-bye.